Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm going to talk about my WGU Bachelor of Science in Computer Science program today. It's something I've been wanting to talk through, and in this video I'm really going to give a recap of the entire degree, mention some things that I liked, some things I didn't, hopefully to guide people who are considering the program, and also to help people who are in the program or just graduated think about next steps. Getting into it, we're going to go ahead and go the recap in these different steps. This outline is going to show these 8 things that I really want to talk about in this video. First, I want to address this idea of whether the WGU degree in computer science, and generally if the school itself is just a diploma mill. Is it really giving out wasteful award degrees that don't really count for anything besides the paper they're printed on? Or are these degrees actually reputable programs? So we'll get into that. I also have made a tier list of all the different courses that I've taken, or really that I took as part of my program at WGU. Next, I'm going to talk about some general pros and cons. I'm also going to get into different programming languages like Python, C++, and talk about the level of competency that I think I got exclusively through the WGU program. Fifth, I'll talk about the prospects that WGU students, especially in computer science, have for jobs and internships. Sixth, I'll talk about prospects for grad school, which in my mind is a pretty different category than job and internship prospects. Next, I'll talk about overall feelings about whether it was worth it to go through the program, and then get into my next steps. First, I want to address, is WGU a diploma mill? Does it provide a quality education, or are the degrees it awards just worthless? Well, at WGU, which stands for Western Governors University, is a university that's based in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's actually an online school that I and a lot of other students have gone through. There's this perception that some people have that this program and this degree granting institution are just diploma mills, like just give out stuff, and it's not. However, I do understand that perception that some people have. This infamous post that I've linked to on Reddit is a really good example of why people think WGU is a diploma mill. In this case, the person who posted this to the subreddit finished their WGU Master's in Business Administration degree in 14 days. So they completed a whole master's program in business administration in 2 weeks. That, I think, looks pretty bad, and on a number of levels. I'll get into how that's possible briefly, but I just want to say I totally get the perception that some people have, because if people are graduating with a whole master's degree in 2 weeks, that just looks totally like trash. And I fully sympathize with this person who responded to this poster. Their response was, speaking as a WGU grad with a Bachelor of Science, this isn't helpful. It's great you pull it off, but it's stopping people like me from ever considering the master's program. I'm all for accelerating, but this is degrading to the reputation of the school, and I totally agree. When people post things like this, I cringe really hard because it makes my time at this school look way worse. If someone looks at my resume and they're like, or my LinkedIn, they're like, okay, Daniel went to WGU. Let me look into it. Even if there are less than a handful of posts like this, and I swear there's actually a lot more than a handful, that just makes all of us look bad, and I think that's not good. How is this even possible? Well, it's because WGU uses a competency-based learning approach. The way it works is that once you can demonstrate that you understand the material, you can pass a class. And you can actually do that on your own time. You can demonstrate mastery of or really competency, not mastery. You can demonstrate competency in a subject in the amount of time that you need. You can take as much or as little time to do that. The entailment of this is that you can actually get through a ton of classes pretty quickly if you want to. For the good WGU programs, which in my opinion are a lot of the tech programs like computer science, IT, cybersecurity. Those are the ones I have the most experience with. There might be other good programs. I really just don't have that firsthand experience with those. But in those programs, the way it works for accelerating is someone either understands the material prior to enrolling in the class, or they can devote significant time, at least 40 hours a week, to just study that material. And that can end up resulting in a consequence where someone is able to finish a certain course within a few weeks, within potentially a few days, which sounds absurd. I totally get that. And again, this is what feeds into the degree and the whole school sounding like a diploma mill. I will say, in the defense of WGU, really, at least in the computer science program, you do have to know your stuff. It's not Harvard, it's not Stanford CS, but it is still a good program, and I'll continue to get into it. Not perfect, for sure, I'll get into that too. So, all that to say, the competency-based model at WGU allows someone to get through classes very quickly. And this can have really bad implications for programs that probably are not as good. To be honest, I think the WGU MBA, based on this post, doesn't sound valuable at all. That doesn't make the school a diploma mill, but it does make that program not as good. Whereas for me, I did not finish my bachelor's in 2 weeks. I actually took 5 terms, which is 2.5 years, which is a lot more normal, actually. A lot of people on YouTube and Reddit will say, oh, I completed my degree in 5 days or 2 days or stuff like that sometimes. And not necessarily in computer science as much. But really the average is about 2 to 3 years to finish a degree, at least in computer science. And that's where I was tracking. That was a lot, but hope that adds some context for addressing that. In terms of the courses for the computer science Bachelor of Science degree, I wanted to give it in a tier list format. One, because I think that is interesting to me when I watch tier list videos of like Star Wars characters or something else, you know. So hopefully that can be more engaging than me just chatting through everything. Let's go ahead and get into it. I wanted to give a complete, comprehensive overview of all the classes for the degree. A number of them were fulfilled from other classes I had taken beforehand. From a previous college, I had taken the equivalent of American politics and the US Constitution, applied probability and statistics, English Comp 1, technology ethics, physics, communication, geography, humanities, natural science lab, and tech communication. Those were things that were waived going into it. I had about a third of the degree completed. For context, just a super quick background. The WGU bachelor's is not my first bachelor's. It's actually my third, which I don't recommend to anyone. It's not worth it. No one needs 3 bachelor's. For me, I was working full time at a really cool job, and I was getting more interested in computer science and data analytics through that job. I took Harvard's free CS50 course, which is online. Highly recommend it. I've done a playlist about CS50 where I talk about different things that really got me into it. After that, I was like, wow, I kind of like computer science and I have some time. So I started looking into programs, and I ultimately decided to enroll in WGU just to get more accountability to learn. I really like school a lot. All that to say, I had some previous college going into WGU that waived about a third of the degree. But what I didn't have was any of the core computer science requirements. And here I'm going to talk about that briefly. I'll mention too, I started with study.com. There's 2 big resources that a lot of WGU students will use to try to get some classes waived even more cheaply than WGU, which is already cheap. Those 2 are study.com and Sophia. There's probably others. I think those are the 2 big ones. I opted for study.com. I had a great experience. Not sponsored or anything. I don't even have an affiliate link, but I'm just saying it was good. I took 3 classes: Business of IT, Project Management, Data Management Foundations, and Introduction to IT. I'll talk about them in the tier list. Getting into the courses I took at WGU, I won't read all of these because I'll talk about it in the tier list right after this, but basically, I took a bunch of the core classes at WGU. Really, all the computer science classes, minus those 3 study.com, I took through the WGU system. Since I started 5 terms before, or I guess 4 terms before I finished it, there actually was a curriculum change where some of the classes were from the old curriculum, some were from the new curriculum. And I'm sure that even now, it's probably even a slightly different curriculum than when I finished it. All that to say, you'll see some classes that may or may not be in the current curriculum on this list. Getting to the tier list, we're gonna go in alphabetical order. I have 7 tiers. I have S tier, which is super, super good. A is good, like genuinely good class. B is decent, okay class. Better than average, but it's not amazing. C is average, just straight up like, okay, this is fine, but not great, not bad, average. D is like, okay, this is a pretty bad course, but it's okay. Like I can see it's a passable course. E is like, okay, this is bad, this is pretty bad, but it's not trash. Trash is like, wow, this is horrific. F is trash. F is horrific trash, in my opinion. No need to say this, but this is totally my opinion. No one influence anything on this, and you will disagree with this potentially. That's okay. Getting into it, I'm gonna put advanced data management. At our strong start of S tier, advanced data management is where you do a SQL project. You have to look at a database of DVD rentals. Basically, the premise of the whole class is that you own a DVD rental store, like Blockbusters, which unfortunately has gone out of business. Lots of good memories there, but that's okay. Let's say you own a Blockbuster. You want to get some data analysis about what kinds of movies are selling best, or what category of movies are selling best, or what employee is renting the most movies. The questions you ask are up to you, but they have to be helpful for your business. You have a lot of independence for what kind of questions you want to ask. And I think you learn SQL pretty well, which is structured query language, through this class. I think it's a really good class. I loved it. And I loved the whole project that I did. I thought it was just so fun. You actually get to work in PostgreSQL as well. Really, you work in PG admin with that. You are encouraged to work in the virtual environment. I found it to be an extra fun challenge, not that hard, but just a little extra challenge to just set up a SQL server on my own Linux machine. So I installed pgadmin 4, got the PostgreSQL working, got the DVD database going, because it's actually publicly available. I highly recommend that because you get even more practice working with SQL from the ground up. Highly recommend. Excellent, excellent class. Next class, Advanced Java. I'm gonna put this as our first B tier. I think it's a good, okay, decent class where you learn Java, you get to do some somewhat advanced stuff, you do multi-threading. It can be kind of nice because you have to really build on your back-end programming that you've already hopefully done earlier. There's some weird things that definitely take it away from being a really good class. But overall, it's good. I have not a lot else to say about that. Back-end programming, similar, very similar. B, it's good. It's just not that good. I think you learn a lot through it. There's some particularities that I'm like, okay, it's not amazing. That's pretty much it for that one. Business of IT applications. To be honest, I don't really remember this. I just remember the impression being, oh, this is like not that good. Now that I'm talking though, I'm realizing I think this is the class where you have to do ITIL 4, which is a test where you basically do IT project management type stuff, and you have to take the test through PeopleCert, if I remember right. Something like that. I thought that was pretty boring. I didn't learn a lot, but it wasn't quite trash. So D tier. Business of IT project management, took it at study.com. If you see in this tier list any text box with an asterisk, that means I took it at study.com. This one was my least favorite study.com course. It was pretty boring. I didn't really learn anything. There's some good things in project management, but a lot of this was just super obvious. They just had to make it more complicated by adding jargon. So I thought it was pretty bad, but not trash, not like horrible. Okay, so computer architecture is really important. I think it's actually super important to know for any computer scientist. So the actual material is really valuable. All that said, I thought the class was trash. I thought this was pure garbage, and I'm just being straight up. If you love this class, that's awesome. I did not. I actually had to retake the objective assessment twice. I took it 3 times. I passed on the 3rd attempt, which was really bad, to be honest. It was a hard class. I thought the way that everything was taught was just so boring. Even though it's super valuable, I think there's ways to make computer architecture hard, but still interesting. This class was not that for me. F tier, computer science capstone. Yes. S tier, really good. This is nice because you get to do machine learning in whatever way you want. You have so much flexibility for what's interesting to you. For me, I'll make another video about my capstone project. I thought it turned out really cool, to be honest. I'm proud of it. And whether you decide to do a command line tool or a web app or something else, you really have so much flexibility for it. I thought this was excellent. And the machine learning component, you're not so restricted in what you can do. One of the downsides of some of the performance assessments at WGU, which are basically things where you either write stuff, as in you write a paper, or you code stuff, or both. One big weakness with a lot of those is they're so limiting. You have to do things in a super specific way. Here, the requirements are pretty flexible. You can do pretty much whatever you want. I like that a lot. Really good, proud of my capstone, S tier. Data management applications is a good class, genuinely good. I love SQL. I learned through this course curriculum. SQL's fun for me. This project I don't remember as well as advanced data management, but overall, anytime I get to use SQL is good. This was good. A tier. Data management foundations. Yeah, still use some SQL. I took it at study.com. I thought it was an average class there. This is where I really got, not my first exposure to SQL, that was through CS50, but it was my second big exposure where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see this whole need for database relationship management, and SQL is a really good way to do that. I thought it was all right. It was average. Data structures and algorithms 1. I think that this class is also average. There's some things that are good with it. We have to learn algorithms. We really do need to know how to sort. We need to know these terms. I thought this was very memorization heavy, and I don't think that the objective assessment for this class was all that interesting. Even though algorithms were really important, I'll get to data structures and algos 2, where I'll come back to that. Now, actually, data structures, algorithms 2, S tier, really good. I think this is how you do algorithms. You have to learn it by doing it. To be fair, you don't implement a lot of algorithms. It's really a coding class where you have to do some algorithms with a hash table. You have to find something like the nearest neighbor in a search list. So basically the premise of this class that you implement those for is that you are managing a parcel delivery service. You have a list of requirements. You have to then deliver the packages to each of the addresses you have, maybe like 30 or 40, within certain constraints. Some have to be delivered with a certain other parcel. Some have to be delivered at this time. That's cool because you really have to stretch yourself and think about how are you going to meet all these myriad requirements within the constraints while demonstrating you have some competency in data structures and algorithms. For me, I did this all in Python. I learned a lot. I thought this was a really stretching and somewhat demanding and really interesting performance assessment. So S tier, excellent. Discrete Math 1, I thought was good, genuinely good. I like math a lot. I learned through this course that I even like some of the really specific math for computer science, like discrete math, which is a lot more discrete. This is obvious, but continuous is where you have numbers and functions. Discrete is like you have instances of things, and it's a lot more like chunky in my head. I thought that was cool. This was a good class. The second one was even better. S tier, for sure, for me. I loved this class. I loved that you had to really know your stuff. A lot of people change from computer science to software engineering at WGU because of this class, because it's pretty hard. Depending on who you ask, this is the hardest class in the computer science degree, and also the hardest class at WGU in general. I thought it was hard, but really good. S tier, for sure. Fundamentals of IT, this was good. No, it wasn't. Actually, I was misremembering and switching this up with something else. This is not a good class, but it's not trash. It is something where I don't think you learn anything. It's just a waste, but it's not trash. E tier. Okay. This is something where you don't learn anything and it's trash. Introduction to Artificial Intelligence has the potential to be so cool. You would think that taking an artificial intelligence class in this age of AI would enable you to do some cool stuff and learn a lot. I don't think either of those are true. There's 3 assignments for this class. I think the third one is the one that takes the most time, and I think it's the one where it feels like the biggest waste, frustrating. First one, you basically work in Competency Sim and you do a little virtual robot thing. You wanted to keep track of different obstacles. I think you have the potential to learn some cool stuff. I think the only way to do that in Competency Sim and not change it that much is to make it way harder. It's just so easy. I did it in, I don't even know, 2 days or something, which is absurd. It goes back to, oh man, is WGU a Diploma Mill? No, but I get why people say that. Second assignment, you get to do something else, I forget, but it's also similar, not really interesting. Third one, you just write a paper about a hypothetical setup for machine learning, and I don't think it's that valuable, to be honest. A better use of AI is the capstone, where you're required to implement machine learning. Way better, for sure. So F tier for AI course specifically. Intro to IT is my favorite class that I took at study.com. It was a decent class. Wasn't amazing, but I got exposed to a number of different things. For people who know IT well, it will sound really basic when I say things like, oh, I learned what Wi-Fi is. I learned about Ethernet cords. I learned how HDMI works at a basic level. Networking, tech, sysadmin at a basic level was still really interesting because it was pretty new for me as someone who's done more natural science and then humanities stuff. Overall B tier, for sure. IT leadership foundations, trash. Simple trash. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. Java frameworks, also trash. I'm sorry, whoever developed this course. Wow, this is pretty bad. I'm so sorry. But I think it can be way better, way better. I think Advanced Java is probably the best Java course because you take a lot and Java frameworks is not good. Java fundamentals, also bad but not trash. Yeah, it's not that I don't like Java. I actually do. It's more so that the way that these courses are structured is not that good. It's not really amenable to learning things well and doing interesting things with Java. Well, a better thing, in my opinion, that would have been good is doing something like data structures and algorithms too, where you have to implement different projects, but you have to do it in Java. I think that could be cool. Linux foundations, overall, average. You have to take a Linux cert with the Linux Professional Institute for this class. That whole process was okay. A little bit annoying, but it's okay. Linux itself is actually really cool to me. I converted 2 of my Windows PCs into Linux machines, and I like Linux so much. The only reason I still use Windows is because of certain proprietary software that just works so much better on a native Windows thing. There are virtual machine solutions for sure, but having just a straight up Windows machine, all access to it is kind of nice as well. But Linux is so good. I love Bash. I love working in the terminal. You get to do that for sure in this Linux course, which is cool. It could be a lot better. Getting into the next chunk. Network and Security Foundations. I'm going to put this one a B. It's a decent class for sure. Above average, but not great. I think it's nice to get it more into networking and security foundations. You really hit home on the CIA triad, so confidentiality, integrity, availability. You really hammer that home. And you also learn about how internet works, how this works, how different protocols for transferring data and signal over the internet, things like that. It's good. Operating systems, I liked this a lot better than computer architecture. They're kind of similar conceptually, and there is some overlap. I thought it was still hard to do this class. There's a lot of memorization. I think I had to redo the objective assessment as well for this. It's good though. I think it's decent. Orientation, funny to count this one. It's not quite a class, but it is required. It's worth 0 units or credits. Still, I wanted to put it at D. It's not that good. But you learned some stuff, I guess. Scripting program applications. Oh, this is S tier. This is a class where you have to use C++. You're given constraints, and you basically have to make sure that you can output the data within those constraints. And they're kind of specific. It's not easy. You have to use pointers of pointers, different classes. It's fun though. I think it's a really stretching class, especially if you take it early. It might be harder than a lot of the other computer science stuff you've done before, if you're pretty new like I was. And I thought it was good. Really good. Scripting and programming foundations. I think this is average, mainly because you don't really code, funny enough. You learn the concepts and you regurgitate it on a test, but it's not really that helpful in my opinion to learn and be tested on, oh, is this a variable? Is this an integer or a float? I think it's way better to get that hands-on experience typing up stuff, looking at it, seeing how it interacts with other data types. So the testing, I think, doesn't work as well. Wow, software design quality assurance. I thought this was also just trash. I keep saying trash. For me, that's a very common word I use when I just have to emphatically describe that I don't like something. And this is something I genuinely just don't like. I think there's opportunities to make quality assurance actually interesting, which sounds potentially contradictory to what I'm saying, but for context, I have 2 years of industry experience working in medical device, regulatory affairs, and quality assurance, which isn't exactly the same thing as software quality assurance, but it's thematically related. And there's some really interesting puzzles that you get to solve in medical device quality assurance that translate somewhat into software quality assurance. If we had done something more like that, that would have been interesting. But as is, it's not good. I'll just end at that. Software engineering, similar. You would think a software engineering class would be so cool. I think it's not. You are given a task to propose a project, and you have to write up super specific things. And I will say, the evaluators for all these courses, even the ones I put in F tier, are pretty good at telling you what exactly they want you to talk about. So even though I didn't like this class, I will say I'm grateful for the evaluators because they told me what specifically I needed to fix on my next attempt. So overall, hey, grateful for them. Still F tier. Version control, E tier. I've made a video about the version control class where I said it was bad, and it is bad. Now saying I didn't like the version control class can sound blasphemous as a computer science student, which makes sense. You really do need to learn Git, maybe Git Bash, GitHub. You really want to know how to initiate a Git. You want to know how to pull, push, commit, things like that. Really essential. So this class is a means to an end of doing that. I think there's much better ways to do that in general though. I'll end with that. Web development foundations, this is D tier. It's bad, but not really bad, not horrific, could be better. You do learn some things and those things make it passable. The biggest thing and my biggest gripe with this class is that you don't actually create a website. You don't develop a web foundational thing. you are tested on mainly HTML, CSS, JavaScript, syntax. I think that's nice because you need to know that to develop a website and a web app, but it's not nearly as good as jumping in and building a web app, web something. The reason for that is, in my opinion, I think as good as syntax is, and as necessary as it is for someone to have a really good grasp of the essentials of syntax in pretty much every language to be a good computer scientist, a lot of the syntax for specific things can be learned later. What I think you can't learn just by taking a test is constructing something, really putting something together and seeing the relationships between things. For example, you'll be tested on maybe what is a div, or what specific tags do you need to put in an href to be able to situate an image or a link the way you want or something. Okay, that's cool. But how does that href interact within the div, or if it's in part of an unordered list chain or a table? Those are things that I think are really nice to do on your own, on your computer, as opposed to taking a test. So overall, D tier. This is my completed tier list. I'll now mention my top 3 classes at WGU in the BS in Computer Science program. Number 1, I would say data structures and algorithms is so good. I talked about it, but I think it was stretching and like really interesting. I think you have to be creative because there's actually a potentially infinite number of ways that you can solve the problem. It's really about what do you think is an interesting way to solve it that also isn't absurdly high in terms of time complexity, space complexity. You want to develop an algorithm that's pretty good and it's not overly complex in either regard. I think it's cool. Really happy with that. Okay, Discrete Math 2 though is my favorite class at WGU. I think it's really good. I did make a video about it, and to be honest, I don't remember everything I said in that video, but I can say in this video, truthfully, looking back at everything, that's my single favorite class in the program. It's so different. A lot of people don't like it. They would put it in F tier, which is okay. For me, it's S tier. You get better at math. You get better at thinking logically in those mathematical chunks that I laid out in that metaphor earlier. Really good. So that's number 1. I would say number 2 is data structures and algorithms. Number 3, in my opinion, for my top 3, is scripting and programming applications. On paper, this is actually not the most engaging class. The project isn't that interesting on paper. The reason I liked it so much is that it was the first time I felt really challenged by a coding thing, which looking back, I could do this really easily now, the performance assessment for it. But at the time, it seemed like so hard. It seemed like there was so much challenge in every single piece. It took me so long. I think this was one of the longest classes for me because it was super early on in my degree program. Going from CS50, which does challenge you, to this was a huge, huge step up. But I did it, and the satisfaction I had when it was done was huge. So I look back on that time fondly. Top 3 classes for sure. Third point, what are general pros and cons of WGU? Some pros are things like it's online. I started at WGU when I was working full-time. I did not want to try to balance a brick and mortar school with my full-time job. I was like, this will be way too much, and just in terms of driving. And I don't really want to take evening classes. There weren't a ton of schools anyways that were really working logistically with that. I really did want to do online. I've done online school before. I was like, okay, yeah, I think this will work. It also is cheap. Each semester, at least when I started, was about $4,000, maybe $3,800 when I started. That's so cheap. Each semester, by the way, is a 6-month term where using the competency-based model, you can actually finish as many classes as you possibly can within that time. So every chunk of a term, you can finish a lot within like $4,000 budget. It's pretty cheap. For me, in 5 terms, that would be $20,000, which I think it's still really cheap, to be completely honest. But if someone does it in 2 terms, 1 term even, which is way harder than it sounds, that is definitely pretty cheap, which is nice. You can take as many classes each term as you can complete, which I definitely mentioned. There were some terms I literally just took like 3 classes or 4 classes, and that was it. For context, I was doing just so much during this degree that there were terms where I would take a lot, like 10 or 12 classes, and really crank out those classes. And there was one term, my busiest term, where I literally took 3 classes and I actually did not pass the 4th class. I had to take it again the next term, which you can do a semblance, that's not the right word, a low frequency of times during your degree program. And you can still end up with a degree, you can have satisfactory academic performance, it's okay. I would definitely avoid that. For me, I was just so busy. So for context, I was also more than a half-time student in a graduate program. I was working full-time. I was also teaching part-time as an adjunct professor, and I was volunteering a ton with my local church. So just super, super busy. That doesn't even account for social life that I actually was maintaining decently well. So busy, like ridiculously busy. So I am totally fine with it taking 5 terms for sure, which is still like decent. That's definitely average for WGU. All that to say, you can take as many classes. I took a lot some terms, less some terms for sure. It's also, for the CS program, regionally accredited by the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities, which is the same accrediting body that accredited my school that I went to as a brick and mortar undergrad for biology and philosophy. So that was awesome. It's also ABET accredited, which means that it's accredited by this body that accredits engineering and computer science programs at the undergraduate level. That's kind of nice. Not every school has it. A lot of super prestigious schools don't have it, but they're so prestigious they don't even need it, to be honest. This is just a nice stamp of approval for mid and lower tier schools, to be honest, about saying, hey, this is still a quality program, even though it's low tier or mid tier. WGU is known for its strengths in computer science, information technology, and cybersecurity. I think it's not, again, like some super prestigious school for these things, but it's actually good. And within the industry, people can know, okay, these are pretty good. Even though there are some people in the industry and outside of it who are like, oh, this is a diploma mill. So you do wrestle with that. But I think with these programs, not as much, to be honest, which is nice. I mentioned this earlier. Even with the F tier classes, I was like, these are trash. One thing I appreciate is that evaluators will tell you exactly what they want. Things that they want you to change, things that they want you to update a little bit on the performance assessments. That's really good. I think they're actually so communicative. And one strategy I had a lot was, let's say I didn't really feel the need to study a ton for a concept before working on a project. I would often just turn in multiple submissions. What I mean is I would attempt the performance assessment once, look at any evaluator feedback, knowing I probably wouldn't have passed it the first time, iterate based on that feedback, give me more feedback, return it, boom. Within 3 attempts, 4 attempts at most, I passed every performance assessment that way. It's kind of nice. You have unlimited performance assessments. They actually give you great feedback, so it's like, just do that back and forth. You'll be good. Cons. The material for each course is often not very good. WGU uses Zybooks, which is a thing that was created by several computer scientists at the University of California, Irvine. And the infrastructure is good. There is a system in that book, or that book platform, where the way it works is you have content, like picture this block of content. Then you have another block that is an interactive thing where you can drag and drop, you can select things. That's kind of nice. You can actually do that a lot in Zybooks. I think that's cool. But I think the editing of the Zybooks is not that good. There are different grammatical errors, sometimes misspellings. Sometimes the practice questions give you the wrong answer. That's really bad. But it's recoverable. Overall, I think about 95% of the Zybooks material is good quality. But the 5% can get kind of frustrating. And to be honest, a lot of it is not very engaging to read, in my opinion. Instructors vary in helpfulness. I'll touch on this a little bit later. But really, there's a range of helpfulness among these instructors. Some are really good. They reach out to you really quickly. They give you a lot when you enroll in the class. Others are the complete opposite. And to be honest, a lot of them, in my opinion, are like the latter. Objective assessments can be a pain to schedule and take. I think that the objective assessments, for context, these are proctored exams where you take it online. A proctor will view your screen, they'll view you physically taking it. The reason I did this is that they do need to see your hands a lot, they need to see your face, your screen. That whole process can be kind of a lot. I remember my most frustrating experience was when I was having trouble logging in. I finally was able to get into the platform, and then I accidentally highlighted part of the text on screen. And then the proctor said, "Hey, you cannot highlight. That's your first warning. You will not have another warning. You will fail if you highlight again." And I was like, whoa. I didn't say that, but I thought, chill. I'm just literally, I accidentally highlighted this thing because I use a mouse pad on my laptop. And sometimes it'll highlight as I scroll unintentionally. And I'm like, whoa, can we just chill? That was like, wow, that threw me off. I still passed that one, I think, but I was like, wow, this is so frustrating. It's moments like those where I'm like, why am I even here? Why am I doing this to myself? I don't need this. But it's okay. But I will say, yeah, I don't think I ever had a great experience taking an objective assessment. It's usually either okay, drudging, or like, wow, this is pretty not good. So that's a con. Mentors, also vary in helpfulness. Some people have said that their mentors are great the whole time. Others are not as good. I think my mentor has been, or was really genuinely decent. And there are times though where I've been like, wow, I don't think my mentor is the best fit. I actually think I'll switch mentors. And really, then I was like, you know what? My mentor is not the biggest part of my degree program. It's really on me to finish this. My mentor, looking back, was always pretty helpful. So, yeah, decent. But some are not, and sometimes even mine was not. Con, you're on your own. For sure, you have so much independence, which has its benefits, but many downsides. Sometimes you will be in the midst of a super slight crisis of purpose. Like, wow, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this to myself? Because I don't get this. I've failed this objective assessment twice. I have to retake it. I don't know if my studying is clicking. And the truth is, this is so boring. That will happen. I guess I don't want to be a fortune teller. Potentially it could not happen, but definitely I think it is, if not universal, a common experience. And it's not like you have anyone to reach out to. You can, of course, theoretically, reach out to tons of people. You can reach out to your instructor, your course instructor, your program mentor, student services. And those people are available. I say theoretically because really, let's say you really want to try to finish something within a few days, or not necessarily a class, just a part of a class. It's hard to reach out all the time. You have to schedule things. You can't just walk down campus and chat with your instructor during office hours. That's not a thing. And truthfully, a lot of time, the best resources are just other students who are grinding through it on their own as well. Reddit is so invaluable, to be honest. Reddit is nice because you can go there and you can type C964 or something, which are different class codes for WGU classes. You can get so much really good resources there that will help you even more than the course materials. And that's kind of strange, the fact that you're on your own, so much so that the fellow students have formed their own unofficial communities that help you more than the actual formal stuff at WGU. On to programming language competency. How much competency does a WGU student acquire through the bachelor's in computer science? In my opinion, it goes like this. Python, I would say I walked away with an intermediate level of understanding competency in terms of Python programming. Mainly from data structures and algorithms too, and the capstone. I did the capstone in Python. I love Python. I think overall my Python is my strongest language I would say it's advanced. I would say others are intermediate, but I would say Python is my best language for sure. Advanced, personally, through WGU exclusively, I would say I got intermediate competency. C++, I would say my competency through WGU is low. The main source of this is through that scripting and programming applications course, which was in my top 3. It's my 3rd favorite class at WGU. However, I don't think that's enough to build even intermediate level of competency. So if you want to get better at C++, WGU alone, at least based on the curriculum I did, will not be enough to get you there. Java, even though I did not like the Java courses, I developed intermediate competency by taking those courses, which I guess even if the course is bad, if the end goal was to get better at Java, I guess it worked. So that's good. SQL, intermediate. I almost wanted to say advanced, but really, truthfully, I think intermediate is definitely an accurate picture of my competency through, again, WGU exclusively. JavaScript, low. You don't really make websites, really. Or rather, you're not really required to make websites from scratch. You will work on back-end stuff for different applications. You can make a website. I made a web app for my capstone. That was fun, but you don't have to do that necessarily. So really, it's pretty low, the competency you get from that. On to job and internship placements. What are the prospects for a WGU degree, or rather degreed person who just finished their bachelor's in computer science, or maybe has, and they're trying to transition or switch from a different industry, things like that. Or maybe you're already working, you're looking for a new job in that field. Cool. I think the job outcomes vary widely. I know a person who worked really hard to graduate after WGU, grind leak code, and then they actually were able to land a software engineering role at Google. That's definitely an outlier for sure, but it is possible. That's awesome. On the flip side, I also know of people who graduated WGU and they're still job hunting 1, 2, 3+ years after graduating. Both extremes are valid. And to be fair, this is actually universal across colleges. Some people find jobs quicker than others, even at really good brick and mortar schools, for sure. That said, I do think WGU is not in that same level because I think, to be honest, a lot more WGU grads struggle to find jobs right afterwards than brick and mortar schools, sometimes in some contexts. I think I'll get flack for that. I'm just being honest. However, for students who are extremely proactive, WGU students can and do find very excellent jobs, of course. Like I'm just trying to give the full truth here. And many even find success before graduating. They're able to land really good jobs before getting their degree. But like I said, there are a lot of WGU students who are on the job hunt for a while, for sure. And I think it would be disingenuous to not mention that. Internships. Enrollment in the BSCS enables students to apply for internships which exclusively are offered to undergraduate students. This is, I think, one of the most valuable things about being in the WGU BS and CS program. It doesn't have a lot to do with the actual content itself. It's really just that student status, which is so nice. That's awesome. I think, as with jobs, a student has to be prepared to be extremely proactive to land one of these internships. Keep in mind, a lot of other students want these same internships as well, but it's definitely possible to get them. And once you get the first one, it's really easier to get the next ones. My best advice for job and internship stuff for WGU students, really anyone, but specifically WGU students, is who are taking the bachelor's in computer science. Identify the topics that interest you most in your degree and create a few excellent projects in that area outside of WGU. Your WGU projects, truthfully, will not be enough to impress any person who's looking for a top tier programmer. It might be enough for a lower tier job, to be honest, and that's cool. I think to make a really good portfolio, you really want to identify the topics, even if they're based on projects you've done at WGU, and build something really excellent that you're really proud of, that solves a specific problem or shows off a specific skill or both. even just 3 of those can be huge. So I think that's awesome. I also think it's really good to be prepared to leak code a lot, depending on what level of job you want to do. Let's say you're okay with a $40,000 to $50,000 developer job that just gives you some valuable W2 experience. It's not prestigious or anything, but it's just something where you can say, hey, I've worked as a full-time W2 software engineer. You don't have to mention in the job interview, oh, it was only $45,000. But that's something. Just to get your foot in the door, you might not need leak code for that. But let's say you're aiming for something that's $70,000, $80,000, $110,000 or more. I think it's really good to grind leak code. You probably will need to do that anyways. Start mastering the blind 75. That's a really good list to get started. Also, it's okay not to be a developer. There are a ton of jobs outside of software engineering that are available for computer scientists. You can do data engineering. You can do sales engineering, where you combine that interpersonal stuff with that technical side. You can be a sysadmin person. You can even do business analytics. Let's say you really liked the advanced data management class. Business analytics and business intelligence might be a good fit for you. I also have to just echo the 12 pillars of employment. This is not my original thing. This is from a YouTuber named Josh Madakor, who actually, his videos are why I enrolled in WGU. I was like, oh, it actually sounds like a genuinely good program. So I'm glad I did. And he has some really good advice. So I'll just summarize what he says. The 12 pillars of employment that you really need to develop, really, you want to be S tier in all these areas. But if you're only S tier in a few areas, that can be enough. Let's talk about it. Number 1 is consistency. You want to be consistent all around, where really you want to be able to think on yourself and know that, yeah, you're actually consistently putting forth all the rest of these pillars. 2, job application and execution. You want to be applying to a lot of jobs, for sure, or internships, or whatever you're interested in. Self-presentation. You want to look professional. You want to look good. Like for me, let's say I was in a job interview right now, I probably would actually cut my hair, make it shorter, trimmer, make sure my beard looks trim and clean. I would wear nice shirts. I wouldn't be wearing this for sure. So you want to present yourself really well. Written communication. You don't want to be looked down upon or really rejected from a role before you've even had a chance to be considered because you make a grammatical mistake. Or you call someone the wrong name. That's so bad. Or you miss someone's title, and let's say someone has a PhD that you're reaching out to. You call them Mr. or like just their first name. Some people won't care. Some people will definitely care. And little things like that in your communication can go a long way. Concision, effectiveness, engagement helps. Keep in mind, when you send an email, when you send any written correspondence, someone else is reading that. And it helps not to be boring. You don't have to be funny. You don't have to be provocative. It's more so just say things concisely and in an interesting way. That helps so much. People appreciate that. Resume quality. Have a good resume. That helps so much. Even I, as not someone who's a career mentor or anything, still come across resumes that are pretty bad that I don't really like looking at. There's some things you can do to make your resume look good. There's a good book called The Non-Designer's Design Book by this author named Robin Williams, who's not to be confused with the actor, but Robin, she has done a good job of outlining a simple way of memorizing how to design things well. For me, I use it all the time. The acronym is CRAP. Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. If you make your resume crap in this way, that's good. That's good, for sure. So just do that. There's info on that online for sure. Portfolio quality. Yes, I recommend just at least 3 really good projects that show off things you're genuinely interested in, that are tied to the job that you want to pursue, that you're proud of. That can be awesome. Make sure you do good documentation on GitHub. You want to make sure you have good comments, good version control. All those things are so good. Awesome. Experience. Obviously, experience is great. You don't even need to have paid experience to get experience. You can, for example, start your own company that doesn't actually have to make money, but you can honestly make an LLC for like not even a lot of money in the US. You can have it be a formal entity that, of course, yeah, it might not make any money to be honest, but it can be something where it's formal that you have to file taxes for, like get tax refunds on different things that enables you to really have this entity where you create something and you might actually make money from it, which is awesome. I think that is so good, where you build your own experience. Best thing is to get W-2 experience, even if it doesn't pay a lot. That can help you be a huge stepping stone to your next thing. Next is social network. In a lot of ways, this is actually the number one thing, because if you have a good social network, that can override everything else. Because if someone introduces you to a hiring manager and those two are friends, that's like huge, because that can be anything from guaranteeing an interview to just guaranteeing a job. Let's say someone's like, hey, pal, you're my best pal. This person, they're really good. You're looking for a developer? Hey, hire this person. Boom. The pal might just hire you off the bat. So social networking, so good for sure. It can really trump everything else, but you can get a job without it. Ninth is interview skill. Being able to interview really well, being able to articulate yourself vocally is really good. It ties very closely to written communication. Avoiding saying, like, so nice. It's crispy when you are able to interview well. No one's perfect, but we all get better. Technical ability, for sure. This goes without saying. You need to be good. We can fake it till we make it. I'm a big believer, to be honest, in faking it till you make it, because sometimes you have imposter syndrome and you don't really know if you fit in a place, but you think you can do it. So you persevere and you end up working in that place and it ends up working out great. But you had to fake it till you made it. At least that's been the truth for me at times, and I think that's fine. But you do want to have some ability to actually do the thing. Just faking it won't suffice. 11th, certifications. These can be more or less valuable depending on the field. In cybersecurity or IT, certain things, CompTIA, all these things can be really nice. CISSP, all these certifications can be awesome. In computer science, it may be less so. I think people care a lot more about what kind of projects you're doing in software engineering or data science than necessarily having a data science certificate, things like that. So keeping in mind, in general though, these can be good. I did Stanford's machine learning specialization certificate. That was really good. For sure, I learned a lot. I don't think employers care about it, to be honest, but I thought it was awesome. So it's good for self-enrichment as well. Finally, formal education. This is not the most important thing. People get great jobs, even at FANG, without formal education. And there are people with formal education who won't even be considered by FANG. So formal education doesn't guarantee anything, but it can be another thing that ends up being pretty nice on your 12 pillars of employment. Moving on from jobs and internships to grad school prospects. Can someone gain admission to competitive grad schools after WGU? Yeah, great question, Daniel. Well, yeah, let's get into it. Ultimately, for people who are considering or doing the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at WGU, there are only 2 programs that I wholeheartedly recommend that are competitive grad schools that also welcome WGU students under specific conditions, which I'll talk about. One of those programs is Georgia Tech's OMSCS, which stands for Online Master of Science in Computer Science. This is such a good program. It's still less than $10,000 as of this video, and it is a quality program that is really the largest online Masters in Computer Science program, and it's still in a top 10 department in computer science. Like that's awesome. I'm not affiliated with Georgia Tech. No one's paying me to say this. That's just straight up, to be honest. I think it's so good. Another one that is also so good is University of Texas at Austin's Master of Science in Computer Science online. So MSCSO. Really, really good. I was accepted into this degree program and I'm so glad to be accepted into it because it's also $10,000, like so cheap. It's really good. These are both top 10 computer science departments in the US, maybe in the world, to be honest. And they offer quality online experience where you have to work hard and you learn a lot. I mean, in UT Austin, some of the classes are legit serious. One that I haven't taken is called Automated Logical Reasoning on the MSCSO Hub, which is an unofficial site where students can review different classes. The average time that most students spend in that class that they report is 25 hours a week. So for one class, wow, that's crazy. Some people end up spending more like 30 or 40 hours a week on it. It is serious. Georgia Tech, same. There's some classes like graduate algorithms where it's like, wow, you really have to put in the work. So it's really good though. And they do welcome WGU students. I mentioned under certain conditions. Generally, just in terms of statistics, MSCSO is more selective than Georgia Tech's program. Georgia Tech, you need a 3.0, you need 3 letters of recommendation, and you don't actually need a computer science degree. You just need to be able to really show you're able to do the graduate level computer science and you want to do it, you have a trajectory, cool. MSCSO at UT Austin, generally you need, well, to be honest, based on last year's statistics, the average GPA of admitted students was 3.7, and you do need to have a bachelor's in computer science with specific prerequisites met. The WGU CS degree does meet those prerequisites, which is awesome. However, yeah, it is more selective, and I think the WGU students that get into MSCSO generally have either past education that shows we can handle this, and those are generally high GPAs, and or they have industry experience where it's like, hey, I only did WGU, but I've worked as a software engineer for 3 years. Maybe you not think I can get into this program. Boom. So I'm not gonna lie, I think MSCSO at UT Austin is harder for WGU students to get into than Georgia Tech's OMSCS. However, they're both really, really good programs. So it's okay if a student doesn't get into UT Austin. Georgia Tech is not less premier, less prestigious. It's also really good, top 10 department. And I just think it's slightly easier for a WGU student to get into OMSCS. And that's okay. They're both really good. If a student wants a master's in computer science and they don't get into either program, I think that's one of the only places where I would consider the WGU Masters in Computer Science. I have a video about that Masters. I just personally think it's better to pursue an online Masters in Computer Science at one of these really competitive, excellent schools. That's what I have to say about that. Outside of online computer science, there are many opportunities for students to get enrolled in programs, and I'll talk about that a little bit later with my own next steps. I wanted to highlight this as well. This is a Reddit comment from the director of the Georgia Tech OMSCS degree program. His name is Professor David Joyner, and he's responding to a thread where the OP was like, hey, what do you all think in the OMSCS subreddit about WGU just launching their Masters in Computer Science? And you have a range of comments where people are saying, oh, I'm considering it, to, oh, this is really not good. Like, people are going to complete it in like 2 days and it's going to look like trash. I really appreciate Professor Joyner's comment, and I'll just read it. He says, just want to throw out, with whatever oomph my name has, I really like WGU. We've had some incredible students come from there. The first person I ever truly trusted to be a head TA for me, TA is teaching assistant, came from WGU, and one of the most promising researchers we have came from WGU. It's actually interesting. Despite its size, it doesn't even rank in the top 50 for schools that send the most students to OMSCS, and yet multiple standout students have come from there. Granted, this isn't a rigorous analysis. Maybe we should do one. I really like his comment because he's saying, hey, just to throw my hat in the ring in terms of insights, I like WGU, and the students who come here are very motivated, and we have some highlights among our alumni who are WGU students. That's awesome, and I think it just goes to reiterate that for a very proactive, motivated WGU student, you can really go far, and you can be a valued part of the OMSCS or MSCSO communities. Moving on, now that I've talked a lot about different aspects of the degree, Was it worth it? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break down, to the best of my ability, an objective rating out of 10 of the overall degree program, different aspects of it that I think give a sense of whether it was worth it. My objective ranking will be an overall score, a weighted average based on the following components. 50% of the score will come from course quality, where S tier classes that we saw in the tier list are 120%, A is 100, B is 80, C is 60, D is 40, E is 20, and F is 0%. 25% of the overall score is going to come from instructor quality. 20% is going to come from job and grad school placement, and then 5% is going to come from administrative support and perks. The reason I did it this way is because I wanted to try to create a scheme that can be universalized to different schools. So it's not going to be exclusive to WGU. In the future, I plan to make videos about all my other schools that I've been to as well, and try to use this same concept, at least for applicable schools. It's a little bit different for different grad school programs because, for example, if you do a PhD in Europe, you're going to have 0 courses. So this course quality metric isn't going to apply. It would be more like research, development, culture, quality, something like that. Okay. This is objective-ish. It's not really, I don't even know if it's possible to give an objective ranking of a school program out of 10. But this is the best I can do, or the best I could think of. Course quality. With this scheme in mind, going back to the S tier and really the tier list more generally, I ranked 5 classes as S tier, which means we're going to multiply 5 times 120%. That gives us a score of 6. That's a contribution from the S tier. We had 2 A tiers, which ends up equaling a score of 2. 5 B tiers, multiplied by 80%, that gives a score of 4. 4 C tier classes, so 2.4 of a score for those. 4 D tier classes, contributing 1.6 points. And then 3 3 E tier classes, contributing 0.6 score points. And then 6 F tier classes, all contributing 0 score points. The total score is 16.6. To take the weighted average, we'll take that divided by the total number of classes, which is 29, giving us a total weighted score of 57%. On to instructor quality. In my experience, most instructors at WGU were below average. I do not like saying this. I'm not happy to say this. I think it's true. I think a number of them were not very helpful, not very proactive about giving resources, not maintaining their course online portals well. Several were average, and a handful were absolutely stellar. Those handful carry this score for sure because there were some who really did a good job of sending a ton of material right when I enrolled in a class, really helpful stuff, checking in. Those ones that come to my mind, I'm thinking fondly of them now. I'm like, wow, you did a great job. And I'm not going to name them for privacy reasons, but overall I would say 6 out of 10 for instructor quality. Job and grad school placement. I think the grad school placement is strong in the specific context of online computer science degrees that are really good master's programs. That affinity for being able to get into those programs, strong. So 9 out of 10. Job placement, slightly less than average. I would say 6 out of 10. So average, 7.5 out of 10. Administrative support and perks. I would say overall, I think admin is strong in supporting students. When I've reached out to student services, financial services, people respond pretty promptly. My program mentor, in terms of responsiveness, is pretty decent. And the overall admin support, 9 out of 10. Perks, I think, are strong. They could be better, but I think they're pretty good. 9 out of 10 for sure. Things like free Udemy. You can learn anything you want. It doesn't have to be computer science related. You could literally learn about a religion or philosophy or sociology. That's cool. Any Udemy course you want to take, you can take it for free through the WGU Udemy login. You get all the JetBrains IDEs, which are so cool. And as long as you stay within the terms and services and the license agreement, you can use those outside of WGU things. As long as you're not doing things like commercializing your product by using your PyCharm to create a Python app that you make money off of. Things like that. I'm not a lawyer. You don't have to take my word for it. This is not legal advice. I'm just saying that is one way to think about that. But it's cool that you still get to use all the JetBrains things like IntelliJ, PyCharm, things like that. You also get access to ProQuest ebooks, a lot of them. I read and downloaded PDFs of entire books that aren't related to my CS degree, and some that are. Both of those umbrellas of books are so cool. Free, 9 out of 10 overall average for this category. So, in terms of an objective-ish ranking of my experience and whether it was worth it, I would say when we do the weighted average, taking the course quality score is going to be 57% times 50%. Decimal wise, it's going to be 0.285. Instructor quality is going to be 0.15. Job and grad school placement score is going to be 0.188. Administrative support and perk score is going to be 0.045. When we add all four scores, we get our weighted average of 0.66, which is 6.68 out of 10. So this is, I think, fair because WGU is not amazing, but it is good in some areas. It's pretty weak in other areas as well. So I think overall 6.68, I'm happy with that. I think that's pretty reflective where there are lots of opportunities for improvement. And there are some real strengths as well. Again, going back to job and grad school placement, high in my opinion. Some of the courses are S tier for sure, but there are a lot that are average and below average. So I think 6.68 overall is a good metric. Was it worth it? It was. Yes, it was worth it. WGU is good for the right person. You have to be motivated. You have to be willing to work completely independently and not have a ton of support during your degree program. Yes, again, theoretically, there is a lot of support. And like I said, admin are pretty good at getting back to you. That said, you do have to do a lot on your own. And if you're working full-time, you have family or other obligations, it's a good option. If you really want to learn computer science, if you really want that degree, yeah, it's good. There are lots of opportunities for improvement. Again, I think 6.68 out of 10 is fair. It's low. It's not super high at all. But I think it's fair. That 0.332 difference from 10 represents a lot of opportunity for improvement, for sure, in my opinion. WGU is not prestigious, for sure. However, I'm proud of and grateful for my degree program. I'm proud that I completed it. I'm proud that I was in it. I rep WGU on runs, and I don't think, wow, like, oh, such a weird school, like, I don't know. No, it's quality. Like, it's not prestigious, but I'm happy about it. And I'm grateful to have been in the program. I really think, truthfully, the best thing about the program is that it reinstates your student status. For me, I got to do the research route during my degree because WGU has no research availability at all. However, being an undergraduate student reinstated my eligibility for research programs that are only available for undergraduate students. One is the Research Experiences for Undergraduates, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. It offers students an opportunity to learn about how to do research. And for me, I wanted to do computer science research. So I got to do that at a university in Texas. I have a LinkedIn article I've written about that experience and a video, which I can link both below. And it was just so awesome. It was a paid full-time internship. Loved it. So things like that are cool. And in my next steps, I'll also talk about how being that undergraduate student status was pretty helpful. On to next steps. Wow. It has been quite a switch over the last few years in terms of my career aspirations, because when I was considering the UT Austin MSCSO, I was leaning towards going into software engineering. However, I still was curious if I wanted to pursue an academic research career long term. And I actually have decided to go that route. I'm going to be leveraging my recent WGU Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science to work as a post-baccalaureate researcher. To do this, you have to have graduated with a bachelor's within a certain amount of time. It has to be short. So having that recent access to that WGU degree is so nice because it actually gave me the ability to do this program, which is a really good dream program in this research field that I'll talk about in another video. because I did the degree. I needed to have a recent undergraduate degree, so finishing that recently was so good. I also wanted to say that I actually, because of that direction, have decided not to pursue the MSCSO at UT Austin. That was a very hard decision because it's such a good program, really, really good, selective program, all these things. I've actually decided not to pursue that degree though. I think it will take too much time away from my other goals, which are to pursue an MD, PhD. This is a dual degree program. It's an 8-year program where you walk away with a Doctor of Medicine and a Doctor of Philosophy. You get to do both physician work and research work. It's such a cool path. I'm gonna have a lot more videos about this as I continue going that path. So that's the reason I decided not to pursue that, or basically to drop that master's at UT Austin. It's so that I can pursue an even more prestigious, really hard to get into program. However, I'm doing my best to prepare for that. I feel pretty good about the path, and I will keep everyone updated on YouTube as well. More on that later. If people have any questions about things that they're interested about this program, if they have questions about literally anything I talked about in this video, things that they didn't feel like I covered well, let me know in the comments. I think the WGU program prepared me well for further grad school to do UT Austin's program, but honestly, since I've decided not to pursue it now, I think it's actually prepared me really well for the research career I'm heading for as an aspiring physician scientist. I think even though, again, it's not a prestigious program, that combined with all the other things I'm doing together have enabled me to be a really good contender for MD, PhD programs. Not just this, but I think it's a part of my journey that has been really valuable, and that student status has enabled me to do some cool things that I'm really grateful for. That said, yeah, if there's anything I didn't cover, I wanted to be comprehensive in this video. Let me know what questions you have, and I can try to fill in those gaps of comprehensiveness. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.